Let's talk about your brain. And let's ask a question that might honestly feel a little unsettling. When you make a decision, who is actually making it? Are you really the one in charge?
Okay, picture this. It's late. You tell yourself, all right, just one more episode, and then I'm going to bed, right? You've made a clear, conscious plan. You are in control. And then that plan just completely vanishes. The next thing you know, the birds are chirping, it's 3 a.m., and you're halfway through the next season, asking yourself, wait a minute, what happened? Who decided to keep watching?
Well, that feeling? That's not just about a lack of willpower. It actually points to something much deeper. The idea that there's a single you in the driver's seat of your brain, well, that might just be a really convincing story. An illusion, you could say.
I mean, just think about the sheer scale of it all. You've got this bustling city of almost 90 billion neurons inside your head, all firing off signals. And yet, what you experience is this simple, quiet feeling of being one person. Just me.
So how can we possibly peek behind that curtain?
Well, one of the best ways to figure out how a machine works is to see what happens when it breaks. So let's look at a few glitches in our own system.
Okay, take sleepwalking. A person can get up, walk around, make a snack, even do some painting, all while the part of their brain that handles self-awareness and conscious choice, the prefrontal cortex, is totally asleep. It's kind of wild proof that you don't always need a pilot to fly the plane.
Yeah, so that prefrontal cortex, you can think of it as the CEO of your brain. It's the part you think of as you. But as we just saw, the company can apparently keep humming along just fine even when the CEO is completely checked out.
This gets even more extreme when someone's under general anesthesia. See, a conscious brain is like this rich, dynamic conversation buzzing between all its different parts, but under anesthesia, that entire conversation just collapses into a slow, monotonous hum. The lines go dead, and you basically just disappear.
But what if you don't just disappear? What if you could actually be split in two? This is where things get really weird. We're talking about some of the most mind-bending studies ever done on what are called split brain patients.
So in some rare cases, to treat really bad epilepsy, doctors will sever the corpus callosum. It's basically the superhighway of information connecting the left and right halves of the brain. The procedure works for seizures, but it also means the two sides of the brain can't talk to each other anymore. You end up with, essentially, two separate minds in one head.
So check this out. In a famous experiment, they flash a word, but only to the patient's right hemisphere. Now here's the crucial part. The right side of the brain controls your left hand, but it has zero capacity for language. It can't speak.
Then the researcher asks a simple question. What did you see? Now remember, only the left hemisphere, the speaking part of the brain, can answer that question. But that half of the brain saw nothing.
So naturally, that's what he says. Joe's speaking self replies, I didn't see anything. As far as he's concerned, the screen was blank. But the story doesn't end there. And this is the kicker. They then ask him to draw a symbol of the word he saw with his left hand, the hand controlled by that silent right brain. And his hand picks up the pen and draws a cowboy hat. The word was Texas. One half of his brain knew the answer the whole time, while the other half was totally oblivious.
The lead researcher, Michael Gazzaniga, put it perfectly. He said this suggests that you can literally have two separate minds living inside one skull. I mean, that just fundamentally challenges the idea of a single I.
So our sense of self isn't just a simple, single thing. It can be divided. But it's not just what's happening inside our heads. We're also being pushed and pulled by these powerful, unseen forces from the outside world, and even from our own family's past.
Get this. In one study, scientists taught a mouse to fear the smell of almonds. No surprise, its brain physically changed in response. But here is the mind-blowing part. Its children, and even its grandchildren, were born with those same extra receptors and with an innate fear of that specific smell, even though they'd never even encountered it. Just think about what that could mean for us, for humans. It suggests that maybe some of our own fears, our anxieties, might not even be ours. They could be biological echoes of things our parents or grandparents went through, literally passed down to us. Okay, so if we're not totally in control, if our minds can be split, and if we're carrying the baggage of past generations, does that mean we should just throw our hands up and give up? No, absolutely not. In fact, maybe the secret to real mastery is learning when to let go of the controls. When scientists put freestyle rappers in a brain scanner, they found something incredible. When the rappers were improvising, coming up with rhymes on the spot,
that prefrontal cortex, the CEO, the inner critic, it actually went quiet. The part of the brain we think of as being in control has to get out of the way to let the creativity flow. And that brings us to this beautiful paradox. Real control, whether you're an athlete in the zone or an artist creating something new, it isn't about gripping the steering wheel tighter. It's about having the wisdom to know when to let go and trust all the other incredible machinery in your brain to do its thing.
So the point here isn't that you're powerless. Not at all. It's that real power, real agency, comes from understanding the truth. You aren't a single dictator barking orders. You're more like the conductor of a vast, brilliant orchestra. And knowing that is its own kind of control.
Which leaves us with one last thought to chew on. If the key to genius and creativity is learning to turn off that inner CEO, well, who should really be in control? Maybe the goal isn't to always be in charge, but to learn when to lead and when to simply get out of the way.